afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Nerd Tube. And today we have a little special for you. Before the series of Willow commences, we're going to talk about the movie Willow, which was made in 1988, starring Warwick Davis, Joanne Wally Kilmer, afterwards when she got married, and of course, the legend that is Val Kilmer. I'm here with cousin Cheeto. How you doing, mate?
I'm hanging in there. I just a full disclosure for everybody. I had never watched Willow before. Just a couple days ago when I watched this movie, so this is kind of a movie niche thing that I have never seen. I knew of it. I always knew of it. I've always seen promotional art and everything. But I apologize for my dog. He's being annoying. He decides when we start streaming to do his shit. Um, but yeah, I have never seen Willow until just recently, so I'm kind of excited to talk about it. It's more fresh for me than it is for you, Zam. You watched it growing up, correct?
Yes, I did. I watched this film as a young lad, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I was just a kid in the '80s when this movie came out, and I thought it was one of the best things I've ever seen at the time. Fantasy adventures during the '80s were quite common. You had Beastmaster, Conan, Red Sonja, Willow, of course. The Legend. There was a lot of these sort of fantasy films back then. Never Ending Story. There's a whole variety of them, and I did thoroughly enjoy this. And just a quick fun fact: as many people know, I'm a cab driver, and John Wiley was once in my cab. Yes, Matt Murdock's mum was in my cab. So yeah, that was a nice little tidbit for you guys. And I decided to watch this movie again today for the first time in God knows how long. And I have to say personally that even though I think this is a good family adventure, I don't personally think this film has aged as well as it should have. There are moments in this movie that I did like. I mean, mainly Val Kilmer's performance as Mad Mardigan. Um, I like the way he just constantly just like flicking his sword around all the time. That was pretty cool, and he seems like to have a decent arc of a guy who likes to maybe pretend that he's like a hoodlum, but really is a good honest person, almost like an Aragon, so to speak, like a comical version of Aragon, if that was the case. And yes, the Lord of the Rings similarities are quite prevalent in this movie in various ways, but it's still a decent fun adventure. Before Lord of the Rings came out on film, we had this, and for all the frailties, and when I would like to talk to them about them a little bit later. It's like I said, it's a decent family adventure. How did you find it, cousin Cheeto?
I really found this movie quite endearing. I really like even though it had some Tolkien takeaways from it, with Lord of the Rings and everything. I really felt like it was kind of still original enough that it definitely was its own thing, and it didn't feel like a ripoff to me at all. I mean, there weren't elves in there. I mean, I do also appreciate the fact that they actually used the little people in the in the whole village. Like, it wasn't just like camera shenanigans with all with a bunch of actors. No, they actually used like little people in this, and I'm all for that. I really did enjoy the fact that we gave these people the work, and that they were shown to be people as well. And I really enjoyed the fact that that this whole little village was quite endearing. Val Kilmer, I've not been a huge fan of Val Kilmer ever, but I have to admit I did like him in this movie. I'm not gonna lie.
He
I
was very
originally when
likable,
he
wasn't he?
huh?
Very likable rogue, wasn't he?
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of Flynn Rider a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if Flynn Rider took direct inspiration from this character. Um, I did. God, I kept on looking at him like he looked like John Morrison from WWE or AEW, whatever you want to call it.
Well, you know the
The
parallels, but he played Jim Morrison, and John Morrison's a ripoff of Jim Morrison. So
Yep.
yeah, I can understand all of that. So
But yeah, I mean, I was watching him the whole time. But as I said, I hated Val Kilmer as Batman. I hate, so it's like it was actually nice to see Val Kilmer in a role that I
he,
actually enjoyed.
he's a superb actor because for me, when I first saw Val Kilmer, it was in Top Gun. You know, he was actually in a movie called Top Secret, by the way, which was part of the spin-off spoof. Sorry, not the spin-off, the spoof movie era of like Aeroplane and Naked Gun and Hot Shots. He was in Top Secret, which is really funny as well. But I always thought of him as Iceman when I saw him, and he played a very emotionalist sort of character. So to see him full of character, full of emotion, it was like, it just shows you his range as an actor. And I thoroughly enjoyed his performance. I want to quickly just talk about the premises of this movie. By the way, this film was directed by your favorite director, Ron Howard. And
I mean, he's gonna save every Disney project that ever has any problems. So I mean,
look, I want to quickly go on about Ron Howard very briefly. Like, I think he gets sometimes a lot of stick, but he's made some of the best films ever. And I think people look at him as like a generic director when I think
I think that I
a
think that was
disservice.
very
It's a disservice to him. He's a very
disservice.
good
Yeah.
director. So anyway, in this movie, basically, there's a child. Um, this child's going to be born, and this queen, her name is Bavmorda. She is going to basically take this queen down. It's a prophecy, so to speak. I can hear myself, by the way. And nevertheless, but this queen obviously tried to find out who this baby is, but this baby will have a mark. Is imprisoning all pregnant women, and just taking their babies away and looking at them and stuff like that. And finally, they come across the mark. The woman sends her baby away with a maid. The maid runs away with the baby, and eventually, even though the baby's growing up with this maid, they're still catching up with her. And then these wolves come along, and she sends the baby downstream, and tragically, she dies by the wolves. And then, obviously, the hobbits, or whatever these fuckers are called, the pecks, um, as a derogative word for them, they find the baby, and eventually they get, the townspeople tell them that they have to go on a quest to deliver the baby to a zucchini, a daikini, or whatever the fuck
In the
regular
in the
human.
city of Nelwyn is what the city was
Yes.
called. I remember that.
Oh yes, the villager know when I see that right here. And they have to give this baby back. The first daikini, zucchini, whatever they come across, they give the baby back to them. And yeah, that's pretty much the premises. And then the first daikini they come across is Val Kilmer. He's in the cage and stuff like that. And he blags his way out, and he takes the baby. And then we come across brownies as well, who kidnap the baby off Val Kilmer.
Which are even
Yeah,
smaller than the little people.
yeah,
I thought that was I thought that was so great. I'm like, what? They're like little like French pixies or something like that
yeah,
without wings.
exactly.
Like I
And
thought it
then
was
talking about
amazing.
pixies and fairies, like we get this moment where a fairy tells um, Willow about the prophecy and stuff like that. And then eventually Willow's on his own. He said, everyone, his entire crew have gone back home. He tells one of his friends to go back home as well, and then he's on his own to find to complete this quest, so this baby could be the one that takes down the lady and all of that. And then we come across many adventures, with them, like, having a wagon chase and fighting on top of mountains and all of that. It's and fighting trolls and all of that. Pat Roach is in this, the legendary Pat Roach. He plays like the main henchman with the skeleton face and all of that.
Mhm.
And then we also get like some of the earliest, was it rotoscoping? I forgot the terminology. But when Willow, but he's also trying to be a wizard. And when he gets this particular wand, he's trying to help this one lady who's a good witch transform back into a witch, but she's been transformed into an animal. And we see him doing it, and we see like the different animals like metamorphosizing, or whatever that word is. And then boom, finally she becomes herself, and she's been an animal for so long that she's actually turned into an old woman. Because she was probably a young woman at the time, but it's been that long, so she's been living as an animal for decades probably. But then we always have the big fight at the end, and it's really weird in a way because there's a couple of things that I didn't get, like Joanne Wiley's character. She just becomes a good guy all of a sudden. She proper like head over heel for Val Kilmer, who
I
is
mean, who
himself head.
wouldn't? You know? I mean, come on.
Well, Val Kilmer apparently was proper infatuated with her in real life. Like, he saw Joanne Wiley and just fell in love with her immediately, which is why they married.
Yeah.
She took his name, and you could kind of see that chemistry a little bit. He really did love her, and she kind of eventually loved him and thought, fine, I'm gonna love this guy and say screw you to mummy. And like it just felt very convenient, like there was no real reason, like a moment of enlightenment. I didn't really get that, if you know what I mean. But then we had the fight at the end, and it was very much like Gandalf and Saruman in Saruman's palace, but this time it had the old witches fighting each other and stuff like that. And I like the callback to him obviously making the baby disappear, like he made the pig disappear at the beginning of the film, and all. Yeah, I mean, it was good. And she and
Yeah,
the
that
witch
was
ended
one of
up.
those moments that, like, I knew it exact right when it happened. Like, as soon as he ducked down, I knew what was going to happen. But it was still like, because it was a product of the '80s, it didn't feel like bad. You know what I mean? Like, if they do that today, then yeah, I could see where it gets a lot of flack. But it's like it was in the '80s, and it was, so I was like, okay, I didn't mind it that much.
No, I didn't mind it either. I thought it was very clever. It was a good callback.
Hmm.
And but what it is the witch never got killed. She killed herself. She spilled some liquid or whatever, and then over the table for the prophecy, and then I think she may have ended up sacrificing herself by accident. And yeah, that's it. And she dies, and everyone lives happily ever after. And he goes back to the Shire at the end, and his family are all there, and that is the premises. But like I said, I did find like Mad Mardigan, like one minute he's like a scoundrel, and then all of a sudden he becomes somebody who he would give his life for Willow. Even though that was nice and I liked it, it just felt like, whoa, where did this character
I
change come
mean,
from?
but I mean, the '80s, they had a lot of character turns like that. I mean, it wasn't, it wasn't built up. I mean, look at Han Solo, like another LucasArts thing. Like, let's look at Han Solo. I mean, he was ready to just dip. He was grabbing his money and going,
It was set
and
up so much better, mate. It was so much better. Like him coming back at the end after he made the run, and the guilt trip from Leia as well. Like it was he even tried to convince himself that, yeah, I'm a scoundrel, when he never was. I mean he was always more than that.
okay,
So
well,
given the opportunity to be a hero, he took it. I mean, he had the opportunity to still remain as a scoundrel and be in that scoundrel life, but then he had the chance to fight for something bigger and better than what he is, quoting the film, I think. Um, and he took it. And whilst with this, I'm not so sure where those moments were to put that opportunity for him. Like he just one minute he's
well, the
scoundrel
baby
and
was taken, and he had the opportunity to dip at that point, but then he decided to go with them.
yeah, it's weird in a way. Like it's but don't get me wrong, I like it. I like it. I like the fact that he was a honorable character overall. But then, like I said, at the same time, Joanne Wiley's Kilmer's character is like she just face turned out of nowhere because she had the hots for Val Kilmer. I was like, ugh.
That was more of the cringe face turn moment for me than anything else. I mean, as I said, it was very endearing. As I forgived it for a lot of its '80s tropes. I mean, they're not going to get away with it during the current Willow series. Like, you have to be more clever than that. You have to do better writing, in that aspect. But for what it was in the '80s, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was.
I think calling it an '80s thing all the time is a bit of a disservice to the '80s, because there's a lot of good '80s stuff which is not as poorly executed when it comes to certain things as that. As somebody who's watched tons of '80s stuff, but nevertheless, I forgave it back then. Now, maybe going in there full on nostalgia and expecting to go on that same magical ride, I ended up tearing it apart a little bit. But I still think this is a nice, fun family movie. I mean, you'd be happy to watch this with your kids and love it. I thought the soundtrack was fantastic.
Mhm.
I loved it. It really fitting for the series, for the movie as well. And it was a happily ever after stuff. And when it did end, I think to myself, I want more, and we're going to finally get it. It's been you know
30 years.
like over 30 years. So for almost 35 years. So It's good that we're finally going back. Shame that Val Kilmer's not in any shape to do this. Joanne Wally Kilmer will return as her character, and I'm hoping that the baby, what was the name of the baby?
Was it
Um,
oh god. Now I can't remember. Elora?
Elora, yeah, that's a good room. Yeah, Elora. So will she have grown up now? This is like she's 35 years older. If they're gonna go for like a proper timeline jump, like 30 years later or 35 years later, then she's a woman now.
Mhm.
And does she have any magical abilities? And will Willow be like the Grand Master Wizard now? You know what I mean? Like he was a sorcerer's apprentice in the first movie. Not even an apprentice. He was just somebody who wanted to be a wizard, and now he's like full on now. Surely. So but the problem is sometimes with sequels and shows like this is that there's such a large gap between the sequels that you really feel that there's a lot of story that needs to be told in between those two movies, which is something they might do in the future if this series pans out. If you know what I mean, like it's a bit like the Star Wars sequels. I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck? We're starting off with a new order and shit. I'm thinking to myself, hold on, I feel like there's a bloody another story that needs to be told here. How are these motherfuckers back? You know what I mean? So
Well, maybe they went through a time of great peace.
yeah, well, who knows? But has this got you pumped for the Willow series?
It definitely has me interested. As I said, I this is just it's not a movie that I avoided. It's not a, I thought that I just never watched it. Like I knew of it, I've heard of it. I'm not a Val Kilmer fan, so I was kind of like, that didn't really entice me. In all actuality, on the outside, it did look almost a little bit like a Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings mix ripoff, like
With the one,
The Bollywood version of of
yeah,
those
when
two
that,
combined.
I was thinking when like I was thinking about that wand as well. Like he got it from one of those boxes in that one shop, uh, and all of that. Yeah, so yeah, I was thinking that too. Um,
But I mean, I'm definitely interested with an open mind and knowing that there's more to come. Because if I were to watch Willow in a vacuum, not knowing that there was a series coming out, I'd be like, okay, it was nice, it was endearing, but I don't, whatever. But now that I know that there's more coming, it's more like enticing that way. So that's why I'm kind of glad I watched it this way. If I didn't grow up watching it, I'm glad I didn't watch it like 3 years ago or 5 years ago when it wasn't like when there was nothing else to it other than just the movie. I'm glad there's something else like for me to see now because now I'll be able to see the show and be like, in a fresh view, like, oh yeah, like this is all this and that and the other. And it is sad that Val Kilmer is in the shape that he's in, um, you know, uh, health wise. And as I said, your health is more important than anything else, like more than a show. I would never want him to come back and risk his health, but honestly, maybe they could have recasted, maybe not. It depends on how they play it. I'll decide once I see the show.
my money is on him and Joan Wiley's character have had a daughter or a son, and that person will be a representation
Of his character.
of his character,
I
so
mean,
to
and
speak.
that would be fine too. I mean, as I said, I don't blame Val Kilmer for not being there. I would never. But as I said, I don't know about um but as I said, I don't know if I would want them to recast or not. As I said, this is a something that I have to see in the show before
I don't
knowing.
think you. I don't think. I think if you're going to bring in returning characters like Warwick Davis and Joanne Wally Kilmer, then you can't recast Val Kilmer. It makes no sense. You might as well just write him out of write him out of the series entirely and give an explanation for why he's not there, whether he's
I mean,
already dead or
unless they start the series with his passing. Like not in real life, obviously, but like,
yeah,
sorry, got something caught in my throat.
yeah,
Um, but like maybe they start the movie, honoring him, the
like a Chadwick
character
Boseman Wakanda Forever type thing.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously Val Kilmer's still alive, and we don't want to wish anything ill upon him. But like, that's a way to write off the characters. Like, and then you're right. Like, then Matt Mardigan has a daughter or a son or whatever, and that character is represented because they're there at the funeral or whatever. I don't remember the actress who plays the knight or the bad guy knight or whatever, but
Yeah, that
um,
Pat Roach.
Okay,
Pat Roach
no,
played
the
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 bad guy
female,
knight. The female bad guy knight.
the one that fell in love with
Oh,
Val
Joanne
Kilmer.
Wally Kilmer.
Yeah,
Joanne Wally, and then she became Joanne Wally Kilmer, and then
yeah.
she divorced him, and she became Joanne Wally again.
So I mean, I don't know if like she would
Her
be able to be
character
there or
is
not,
is is
but
Sorsha. Sorsha, that's the name of her character,
yeah, Sorsha. So
and the baby of
oh,
Alora
actually,
was
she's
played.
she's she's gonna be in it. I'm looking at the
Yeah,
cast right
yeah,
now for the
yeah,
new one.
yeah. She's in it. She's in it. And the baby Alora was played by triplets. No,
Yes,
no, sorry, no, no. Apologize. Twins and another
yeah,
girl.
twins.
Yeah. Kate and Ruth Greenfield, and then I think when the baby became older, or maybe when the baby was younger, it was played by Rebecca Behrman, and when it was older, it played by two other girls. So yeah, I would like to see the baby older for sure. I think that for me, that's one of the most intriguing things about the series now that the baby's no longer a kid. All right, let's mark this episode. Sorry, not episode. Let's mark this movie. I'll go first if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Uh, if back then when I watched this movie, I would have probably given it a 9 out of 10 when I first saw this film. Watching it again and seeing some of the elements of this film and seeing how unfortunately it hasn't aged as well as I was hoping it would, and it made me question the film a bit here and there, which is not right, but still it did. I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. Cheeto.
I actually would also give it a 7. I give it a solid 7, actually. I can see why though your younger self would want it to be a 9. As I said, if I watched this as a kid, I probably would have loved it. So, my more practical adult brain, though, I mean, 7 out of 10 is still a really good rating for something like it's just a one-off movie from the 80s. Now, it's coming to full fruition 35 years later. So,
I will say this though, and I think I mentioned this before, but George Lucas, without a doubt, is the greatest rip-off merchant of all time. Star Wars is June. Indiana Jones is Alan Quatermain, aka King Solomon's Mines, and all of that sort of stuff. And finally, Willow, without a doubt, is Lord of the Rings. I mean, the guy needs to come up with some original fucking material to a degree, but at least he's put a positive spin, not a positive spin, but I have to say, Star Wars, without doubt, is a much bigger, it's much more popular than Dune. And Indiana Jones has surpassed Alan Quatermain and King Solomon's Mines as the major tomb raiding adventurer, in my opinion. But Willow, no, Lord of the Rings is still bigger, I'm afraid, much bigger. And even with this series that comes out, I don't think it will surpass Lord of the Rings. Even the Lord of the Rings series was not well received. Nevertheless, I think Lord of the Rings is still ahead of Willow, but who cares when it comes to this dick measuring contest? Let's just hope the series is good, a good
yep.
ride, good fun. It'll be good, a bit of nostalgia bait here and there. Um, that's all that really matters. That's why I watched the film again as well, just so any nostalgia bait pops up, I'll think, oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
right. I
remember,
might I
I
might even
remember.
I might even try to watch it again tonight just to kind of refresh, like get a second chance to kind of let it sink in before I watch the episode 1 and 2 premiere tomorrow.
Get your kids, well, your kids are coming over, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be good to watch it with them. I'm sure they'll love it. Yeah,
I'll
so
see if they're interested. I mean, you know how kids are nowadays.
yeah,
13 and
with
15. I mean, maybe if they were younger, yes, but
yeah, for sure. All right, so this was our review of Willow the movie. Came out in 1988. Now, don't forget, we're going to be reviewing the series. First two episodes comes out this Wednesday, which for us is tomorrow. So check us out on Wednesday, November 30th, 2022, 11:30 p.m. UK time, 6:30
6:30 US time.
yeah, Eastern time, 3:30 p.m. Western time, and we'll be live talking about this first two episodes. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube. the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. Thank you very much, Cousin Cheeto, and thank you very much, everyone else. Catch you guys later. Bye bye.